It's the weekend. The playoffs are officially underway with baseball. The Pirates season has officially been over for a week now, as I guess you can say, even though, let's be honest, it's been over since like July. So all those things are happening, and yet somehow Derek Shelton and Andy Haynes both still have jobs with the Pirates. Good Friday evening, everybody. I am Mac, and I am back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link in the box below. I really didn't think I'd be coming on here, this late, saying just how disgruntled I am with the Pirates, for the millionth time. And, I know if you follow me avidly on this channel and you know how I feel about the Pirates and with Derek Shelton in general, I know you're probably expecting me to, to do what I did with the Steelers and Mike Tomlin the other day. But honestly, I'm just so emotionally drained from the Pirates and the season that they've had. It's not even worth it. 76-86 Buccos finish 2023 with, which, I mean, I know the first thing people are going to say, well, they won 14 more games than they did last year. Oh, they didn't lose 100 games. They didn't even lose 90 games. That's progress right there. Yeah, guys, I don't think so. That ain't progress to me. This was a team that at the end of April, they were 20-8. The best start that they've had to a season since 1992, which still remains 31 years later. May as well make it 32, okay? That remains the last time that this franchise has won a division title, and it wasn't even the NL Central back then. It was still the NL East. So if you take that April and you go to the rest of the season, the only winning month that the Pirates had since April was in September. And at that point, the season was well over with, and you knew that this team wasn't going to go anywhere. So, I mean, what's the point of even going on with it? Because your core is up. At least most of it is. The majority of your core that you're going to be seeing for at least the next half decade has been brought up, finally, I should say, because we all know that this franchise can't develop prospects worth a damn, or they're just so lazy to do so. And to their credit, some of them have been doing pretty well, but most of them have been failing. And I 100% put that on Derek Shelton. Remember that video that I put out about a month ago saying that this rebuild will be ruined because of Derek Shelton? Well, this is the main reason why, outside of the fact of the collapse that we had after that 20-8 start. I 100% put it all on Derek Shelton. This was not a guy who was managing in over his head, or he just found a rhythm, or it all of a sudden just clicked with him. All this guy had to do was just sit back in the dugout and watch what was being put on the field game in and game out. He is not a major league manager. He is a puppet. He is a sideline watcher. And he's just a clueless clown that just sits back and acts like a manager. I mean, I cannot sit here enough and talk about all the times that he has terribly mismanaged the bullpen, because I'm telling you, at least half our losses, okay? At least 43 losses this year have been because of this jagoff that we have as a manager. But getting back to the mismanagement with the pitchers and the bullpen especially, how about Moreta? He went from giving up a run, he went from not giving up a run, for appearances on end to now going down to a lower velocity, and he's giving up runs left and right. David Bednar, who's going to be the closer of this franchise for the foreseeable future. I get that he's the best pitcher on the team, and I get that he's going out there to close out games, and I get it. When you're a closer, you're bound to blow a couple of games here and there. But the thing is, Shelton continues to bring Bednar out in situations where he doesn't need to be there. Why are you having your closer essentially just be your setup guy when you have that guy in Colin Holderman? How about how he ruined Mitch Keller's Cy Young season? You know what all them things have in common? Especially with Quinn Priester, who got called up and he already ruined his confidence. How about with that Guardians game, that 11-0 onslaught that we took them, earlier in the year, where Quinn Priester was still in his major league debut. He was still on the mound in a 7-0 game to face 3 batters later, and he gave up 2 more home runs. You ruined Quinn Priester's confidence, Derek. And you ruined Rowanzi Contreras' potential as well, to the point to where he needed to be sent back down. You know what all them guys have in common as far as the pitchers go? Derek Shelton worked their arms to death. He overworked them. He overfried them. He over-circuited them. And now they look like busts and they look like bums because this guy has no clue how to manage a bullpen. And then how about our top-rated prospect, the number 1 overall pick from 2021 in Henry Davis? I'm going to put him behind the plate. We anticipate him to platoon catching duties with Endy Rodriguez. Then put him behind home plate. Stop putting him in right field if his defense has been off and he has a shaky arm. Put him behind the plate, for crying out loud. And that's what has ruined me with this rebuild. Because you can have all the talent that you want. You can have every single aspect of talent possible. Because going into this offseason, I also said this offseason is one of the most important offseasons in the history of this franchise. Because you're looking at situations to where you have question marks still at first base. And Connor Joe, by the way, is not an everyday first baseman. You either put him in AAA and you option him, or you leave him out for waivers. Plain and simple. You have a lot of question marks at second base. And quite honestly, who's going to play shortstop as well, which we all know that should be O'Neal Cruz. But what if he gets hurt again? What if Shelton panics, screws up the lineup once again, and inexplicably takes out O'Neal Cruz? Let me ask you guys this, okay? If a batter is raking and he's on a hot streak and Shelton takes him out of the lineup inexplicably, which is something else that Shelton does on a consistent basis, and then he puts him back in the lineup and the player gets cold, who's more at fault? The player or the manager who took away his momentum? Because like I said, you now have question marks at first and second base and at shortstop because of O'Neal Cruz's injury. If you are going to have your goofball GM, who I'm also calling out in this video, and Ben Sherrington, if you're not going to have him spend money in the offseason like you did with Brian Reynolds and extending Key Brian Hayes and is Mitch Keller the next to get extended? I don't know. But Ben Cherington, what's the point of extending those guys and possibly giving Mitch Keller an extension if you're just going to come out there and say, well, we weren't good enough? That's been the culture of this franchise now for years, for decades. And that's why I've given up on this rebuild. You look at other teams in baseball. The Baltimore Orioles, they had a phenomenal season. Just last week, they won their 100th game. And the AL playoffs go through them. The Texas Rangers finished up their rebuild in 2 years. The Miami Marlins, they made the playoffs. They finished their rebuild. The Chicago Cubs had a quicker retooling session than we had a rebuilding phase, and they were in the playoffs until they just had a bad month of September. The Cincinnati Reds, a team that lost 100 games in the 2022 season, they were in playoff contention. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they made the playoffs, and they won a playoff series, no less, and they're going up against the Dodgers in the playoffs. The San Francisco Giants, they fired Gabe Kapler last week because they knew they weren't getting anywhere with Gabe Kapler, and they knew that if they needed to be competitive, they could not settle for a stagnant manager. The Boston Red Sox fired their GM not too long ago. You see all these other teams making moves, managerial decisions, GM decisions, front office decisions, calling up prospects, giving their kids their time to play, and they're all improving. Meanwhile, where are we? Being content with 76 wins. Oh, we finished under 500, but at least it's an improvement. Because this rebuild is not over until Shelton is gone. How's that extension looking now, Ben Cherington? You don't just blindly give someone an extension just because a team had a good month to start off the season. Like I keep emphasizing, if the Pirates were over 500 in August and then you wanted to give Shelton an extension, hey, I still wouldn't have liked it. I still wouldn't have agreed with it, but I would have understood it more. This bozo gives Shelton an extension because of a 20-8 April. And that's why I'm watching Cherington like a hawk now. And hey, you know, as much as I loved that the St. Louis Cardinals had their worst record in God knows how long, by far the worst Cardinals team I've ever seen in my life. We finished ahead of them for the first time since 1999. Okay, for as much as I love that, Pirate fans, do you really expect St. Louis to sit at the bottom for long? I don't. They ain't going to be down for very long because they still have a decent lineup. They just got to wake up and realize that they can't keep using Wilson Contreras as a catcher, and they have to keep using him as a catcher instead of DHing him, and they got to buy some pitchers, and they got to build around Jordan Walker. While he didn't really have a great rookie season, the kid is still young, and he still has a lot of potential to go through him. I don't foresee St. Louis being at the bottom for very long. What if we finish in last place again in 2024, which is very plausible, seeing that the Cincinnati Reds have a bright future ahead of them, the Chicago Cubs are competitive again, and the Milwaukee Brewers won the division, and whatever they decide to do with Corbin Burns or whatever they decide to do with Craig Counsell, I don't know. But the fact is, we're still the worst team in this division, even though we finished ahead of St. Louis. That is just vintage Pittsburgh Pirates right there. You finally finish ahead of St. Louis, and you're not even sure if you're truly better than them. And that's why I've given up on this rebuild. Because Ben Cherington has decided that everything is fine. That everything's okay. We're going to go with the speculations. They're not changing any philosophy as far as this coaching staff goes. It's going to be the same approach with the pitching. It's going to be the same approach with the bullpen. It's going to be the same approach with changing up the lineups. It's going to be the same non-aggressive approach at the plate where they're just waiting for the perfect pitch to come and they're just waiting for the pitcher to walk them and they're not being aggressive at the plate. They have chosen to be content with complete and utter cluelessness because you keep this frickin' clown, Derek Shelton, as your manager. In short, they've given up on the rebuild. They've done the bare minimum with it. And that's why I've officially given up on this rebuild. 22 years. Going on 23 years of being a fan of this franchise. A diehard fan. And the fondest memory that I still have of this team is a freaking wild card game. Not an NLCS, not a division title, not having the best record in baseball, not making the World Series, God forbid not even winning the World Series. And that's why, that's why I keep saying I've given up on the rebuild. I don't even care if they call up more prospects next year because they're going to be ruined because of Derek Shelton. You guys wonder why this guy didn't last in Minnesota as the bench coach and why he failed in Tampa Bay and Cleveland as well. Well, now you're seeing it. Because he now has a team of his own and he still can't win. When all I heard was, oh, just wait till he has more developed players. Oh, just wait till he gets his own team. Who does he have to work with? Wait till the core gets called up. Well, the core is here, and he's still the worst manager in baseball. Yes, I said it. He's the worst manager in baseball. Why are you guys so high on him? Oh, because of one fluke-ass comeback win against the Reds? That's why. Get a new manager. I don't know what the Detroit Tigers are planning on doing with AJ Hinch, but I would absolutely get that guy on the phone if Detroit moves on from him and ask him to come on over to Pittsburgh if he wants to manage us. He's a baseball guy. He knows how to put together a great lineup. He's a winner. Oh, but he cheated with the Houston Astros. I don't care what he did in Houston. He's a winning manager. Get AJ Hinch over here. And when the Astros were forced to move on from AJ Hinch because of the scandal, guess what they did? They brought in Dusty Baker, one of the most successful managers of all time. They won a World Series with him. Managerial decisions and changes, they matter. And Shelton is a loser. And the Pirates are losers because Derek Shelton is a loser. I've really had it. So, like an idiot, I'll still watch the games. I'll still see what they do. But it's not going to be for a good cause. I just don't know what to say anymore, man. I feel like every video that I make about the Pirates is the same thing. Nothing ever changes. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'm Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.